lasers, bright lights, and big bots. Central Boiler turns wood burning into high-tech business. Watch team members build Central Boiler wood-burning furnaces. And the basement buzz behind one of North America's most iconic camping brands. We capture the colorful process behind Dan Cooke's custom camp gear. People are passionate about outdoor equipment. Get this, Americans spend more than $20 billion a year on gear. But no one ever really sees how their stuff gets made.
Well, that's where we come in. Each week, we throw open the factory doors and give you a behind-the-scenes look at how your favorite gear is made.
Made for the outdoors.
I love splitting wood. I've been doing it a long time. My dad and I used to do a lot of splitting wood growing up. We burned in a wood stove. It's kind of like sitting around a campfire. There's just something a little bit magical about it. I suppose that's why central boilers are so popular these days. These boilers, you fill them with wood, they heat water, you pump the water off to the house. Central boilers. Quite the story when you see how these things get made for the outdoors.
We're in Greenbush, Minnesota, home of Central Boiler. We're a leading manufacturer of outdoor wood furnaces. Where we stand today, it's a 300,000 square foot state-of-the-art manufacturing facility.
Where 230 workers build wood-fired boilers. The idea of this guy, Dennis Brazier.
It's a great company and a great story, but really what's behind it are great people.
To build thousands of boilers every year.
It's a firebox encased in water, in a water jacket, and the wood simply heats the water. And then you circulate the water to the building or the items that you want heated.
Every morning, 8 a.m. sharp, the truck arrives with the raw stock steel. What's incredible, this stuff comes in, by the end of the day, sometimes it's going right back out. Most mornings, these guys also come in. These are called fireboxes. Think of them as the guts of a central boiler.
The heavy sheets first go into loaders. Those racks automatically distribute material to the cutters.
We have 7 cells here at Central Boiler, 7 separate lasers that can cut. They're fully automated.
They cut more than 9,000 parts for different furnace models.
This one just came out.
This one just rolled out. It's a nest of many different parts for our stoves. We have about 9,500 different parts.
Remember that steel that came in on the truck this morning? So now that part is cut, it's exact.
And ready for the next step. That means droids.
And today you're the trainer of the robot.
Yep, that's me.
DeMars also oversees the bending bots. Central Boiler put robots to work to keep employees from having to lift and move the heaviest parts.
Every robot's got a nickname. It is?
Mercedes-Benz.
It's the Cadillac of robots. Mercedes-Benz.
All day long, Mercedes bends steel in a giant press brake. Employees also hand bend certain components.
You ready to try one?
Yeah, I mean, he makes it look kind of easy.
With your hands clear, you can feather that pedal and bring it down slow. Now you see this pedal down here, it says closing?
Yep.
There you go. That's how that works. So now we're gonna measure that part and it's calling out for a 90. And by golly, you did perfect.
Up next, bright lights and fast hands. Jordan Hansen welds.
A good mix of gas and a good mix of wire and you get a good weld.
Absolutely. And a little technique.
Yeah, right.
All right, so I'm gonna go on the back side and weld the legs back there. Would you care to watch?
Sure.
To watch Jordan work is to understand. He's good, thanks to 20 years of experience.
Do you want to give a welding a try?
if you think I can pull it off.
First, put your jacket on and leather gloves.
You do understand I don't know anything about doing
Yep,
this.
okay, here's the deal. All you gotta do is you grab your gun, here's your trigger, just work it just a little bit and hold that trigger until you run a weld about that long. Right into the corner. You got her. Never touching a welder? You did good.
That's a wicked piece of machinery.
It is.
And it's pretty darn fun.
Why don't you just go to break? I'm gonna weld for a while.
Straight ahead. Central Boiler's build process really gets hopping.
Oh yeah.
Made for the Outdoors is brought to you by Nutrisource, Nordic Components, Banks Outdoors, River Valley Power Sports, Ice Castle Fish Houses, and Suzuki Marine.
Up in northern Minnesota, a dedicated team of 230 people builds central boiler furnaces. With the parts now cut, bent, and welded, it's time to add color. Painters hang parts on a perpetual track. The line runs several hundred feet through a 5-step process. It all takes about 2 hours. First, wash each part, remove oil, etch the metal, paint, then dry.
To the beat. Keep up, guys. That's polyester paint that goes on to each one of the parts. After, it's kind of like cooking a pizza. Think 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. When they come out of the oven, they're all cured and they're all ready to go.
Which leads me across the plant to a strange old phone booth. Why am I eerily attracted to go in?
What just happened? Hey, I've been looking for you guys.
John Ombler shares a suit, just like mine. He insulates each boiler, decked out in plenty of safety gear.
I didn't understand a word you just said. Oh, he's a southpaw.
All gibberish aside, sprayers cover the boiler in a permanent urethane foam. It creeps and expands into every corner and every crevice. To do this job, you need to be quick and accurate. The foam sets up in just seconds.
But you can see, look at the foam was from the man from the outdoors, the Central Boiler.
We've seen worse.
Down the way,
Okay, here we're building a airbox harness.
Barney Taralla wires harnesses.
This will control the fan and solenoids and airflow in the stove itself.
The harness made up of a plug and a bunch of wires.
Tie her together to keep things nice and neat. Then we'll take this harness over to our tester here to make sure we got all the wires in the appropriate spots on the plugs. Test is complete. Harness works.
Next, electronics.
Right now, Ashley and Garrett are assembling our Firestar control boards, which are the brains.
It takes about 10 minutes to build a board. Think circuits and solder.
Power it up, make sure everything's working properly.
Then, more high-tech stuff.
So this is called a Firestar XP.
The wireless box allows owners to monitor the boiler when they're out and about. With all the parts complete, it's time to wrap up the work.
It's here on the final assembly line that the boilers finally come to life, and Mike Wojciechowski is the guy in charge of making sure these things get done.
First, Mike scans each unit into the plant's master system.
Then they're going to start the wiring process. They're going to install the intakes and the fans.
And the side panel. Each stove moves down through assembly on a track system. The floor actually drops and the stoves sneak along to the next station.
Where they're going to install the skid base trim, then the tin and the corners.
And front panels. Up next, workers install the door hardware and move the boiler door into place. Then they wire the edge and add a chimney. At Station 6, the team installs rafters and the clean-out door. Then they finish the inside of the firebox and build the roof. More finishing hardware, and the boiler is finally complete. Only now does it earn its name.
Once they pass the final quality control test, the QC approval sticker goes on them and they can be shipped out to our dealers.
Many of them loaded up, back out the door just as quickly as the raw materials came in. Headed to homes and businesses where wood-fired heat is still a way of life.
You buy it, you can heat your home. It's good for your family, it's good physically for your body to be outside and to be gathering wood. And at the end of the day, it's a plus for everything.
Coming up, we put the pedal to the metal as camp packs come to life.
You can stuff them, you can beat on them, and they just work.
Camping gear has come a long way in 35 years, but one of the oldest and most classic names in canoeing and camping is Cooke Custom Sewing. You recognize it by the little label on the back of the pack there. Cooke's, quite the story when you see how the gear gets made for the outdoors.
When hardcore campers trudge off the grid, they count on gear. Stuff must work.
Rarely do I bring a repair kit. You just know what's going to work.
Call Dan Cooke the beard behind the brand, proprietor of colorful camping gear.
Now I can't shave, because that's the long-haired dude over there. The guy that looks like Santa Claus.
To understand Dan's story is to visit his quiet Minnesota home and head for the basement.
As my friends jokingly say, the world headquarters of Cooke Custom Sewing. So we make all sorts of stuff. Utensil roll-ups, griddle bags, stuff sacks, rucksacks and guide packs, barrel packs. And this is a fairly unique pack. It's all of 8 ounces. Mucklucks that are used for winter camping. These have been to the North and South Pole.
All your stuff, I've always noticed, is very colorful.
Yes. And the reason for that is it shows up on the end of the portage. When you lay it down, you can find it.
That's the function. But colors can be fun too.
You want to remember your trip. If pictures are dull and boring, it's hard to show your friends. It looks far beyond a hobby.
Oh, it is. Camping gear has consumed Dan and his wife for the better part of 40 years. Cooke's Custom Sewing. And to think, sewing is just a side gig.
But I design automated inspection equipment by day. Occasionally let me pull a whistle.
Yep, an engineer by day, a gear guy by night.
All of our fabric here on racks and stored underneath the table and everywhere we can fit it.
Dan's production process starts with a pattern.
We have patterns of all the packs. This is the canoe skirt patterns up here. There's over 100 canoe skirt patterns. We use every inch of the place. It's pretty crazy.
Actually, what's really crazy, Dan had zero formal training. See, way back, Dan bought a car, a very cool car.
I decided to change the color of the exterior, which meant I had to change the color of the interior.
So he borrowed his shop teacher's machine. He started sewing and whipped up a new blue interior.
That's how I learned.
Dan eventually joined sewing and his other great passion, the outdoors.
This one is going to some gentleman in Canada.
Cooke's Custom Sewing was born. Even now, Dan and his wife sew as the orders come in, and there are plenty.
So this will become one of our insulated food packs.
Dan cuts fabric on the table on the left there. He sews all the pack pieces together. Every time he completes a piece, he creates new memories for somebody out there.
There's something about having done it with your own hands and having someone come up and say, I used your equipment, you made my experience better. That's what keeps me in it.
It's the perfection of simple packs and gear that endures 40 years and counting.
A pack is a necessary evil. No one goes on a trip to carry a pack. Less is better. You can stuff them, you can beat on them, you can use them, and they just work.
Up next,
I'm going to be cutting a 10 by 10 tarp.
Dan's big work begins.
Made for the Outdoors is brought to you by Central Boiler, Mountain Dew, Running Aces Casino and Racetrack, B&W Trailer Hitches, Bonfee, and by Game Fair.
Dan Cooke's camping trips trump most state park jaunts.
But just the expanse of the sky was just incredible up in the Northwest.
Take last summer's big trip. Dan paddled 30 days through the Northwest Territories.
And the black flies, you get hundreds of them on the back of your shirt. We lost 2.5 days to weather.
I suppose a lifetime of such adventures earned Dan a bit of clout in the outdoor world.
I think one of the advantages that I have over people out there is I've led trips from backpacking, canoeing, horseback trips, bicycle trips, ski trips, snowshoe trips. So I've seen a lot of different avenues of camping.
Maybe that's why campers still revere Dan's hand-sewn gear.
The hardest thing to create is simplicity of design. The simplest, straightforward, rock-solid piece of equipment, because you just want it to work.
Dan sews packs, boots, all sorts of stuff. One of his most popular products, Tundra tarps, weatherproof homes away from home.
I'm going to be cutting a 10 by 10 tarp. So what I'm pulling out is 4 layers of fabric at one time. A 10 by 10 tarp is made up of 4 5-foot by 5-foot panels of cloth.
Dan's process starts with raw stock nylon. Next, he does all the math.
60 is divided by 20 inches 3 times. But this allows me to then know where to put all the webbing.
With the tarp components complete, Dan changes out thread and preps his machine.
Here's the other trick, is you got to have lots of webbing cut. Because on each 10 by 10 tarp, there's 28 pullouts. I actually have a webbing cutter out in the garage because this stuff stinks to high heaven.
Almost methodically, he puts the pedal to the metal and buzzes through the project. Each edge, each joint, Dan makes a special fold to weatherproof and strengthen the tarp.
A lot of people don't experience the worst the weather comes. But when the weather is at its worst, that's when you know whether or not your equipment is good. One of my old favorite sayings is, if my stuff is failing, I don't want to be around because something terrible is going on.
To watch Dan work is to understand what makes him tick. A lifetime of adventures, and maybe just a bit of passion go into every piece he sews, and in the end, earns the tag. If you've ever explored, you understand that little logo. It's synonymous with wild places and even wilder adventures.
It's why we go. It's not the thing is so great, is that it's been with you through those experiences.
A notion not lost on those who use the gear.
It's great quality stuff, and we all use it up here. You do that long enough, people just start to know who you are.
I do like the bright colors. A lot of people like to kind of blend in. For me, I like the bright colors. It's high quality gear. It lasts a long time.
And helps people explore the world's magical places. Most of them outdoors. and off the grid.
To come here, to be here, and not to be thinking about your gear, to settle in, just to relax. It's all the difference in the world.
That darn little logo, I'll tell you. I've seen it on so many pieces of gear back on the woods on some of my most profound trips. It's like every time I see it, it takes me right back. Great memories. We'll see you next week.
Do it. Not gonna work.
It's right out to the sky. Come on.
I don't know what you're saying.